Good morning, everybody. Dave Schmidt along with Matt Nestor and producer Tom Warner. We're going to jump right into it. It may be foggy outside, but we're clear on what we want to do today. We're going to be doing some more Pigskin preview, and right now with us, we have the head football coach over at Jefferson, the Jayhawks, Patrick Babcock. Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys this morning?
Great. Hey, it must be football season. It's 80 and humid and warm at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable how we had great weather in the 70s and bone dry for the 2 months leading into here. But as soon as football season started, we just decided we're going to get hot and humid.
Obviously last year's a difficult year. A program can go one or two ways, when you get that. It can either fold and just goes away, or it can bounce back and be ready to play the next year, which you guys are ready to do. What do you guys take from last year, as you prepare for this season?
Well, I think it's just one of those things that you always kind of leave it at the back of your brain as a reminder of what way you don't want things to turn out. Obviously, it's a new group, and we actually have very few guys that were on the football team last year that are on the varsity squad this year. There's very few guys, only a handful of them really went through it. But I think we've talked about it several times as far as that's not something where we're going to allow happen again. That's an important thing for our guys, and it's not the way you want your school and your program and all those things represented. And you're trying to kind of bring that Jefferson Jayhawk pride back.
As you bounce back from something like that, how are the numbers looking this summer with the program?
The numbers have been very solid. We've had as good numbers as we've ever had since I've been at Jefferson on the varsity squad. We've got 36, which isn't a huge number for the size of school we are still at this point, but the numbers there are as solid as they've pretty much ever been since I've been at Jefferson.
We were asking there because I know it's kind of, in and out. So as you kind of go through, I know you said you're putting in a new offense. How is that coming around for you right now?
The guys have really adjusted well to it. We're going back to a wishbone-style offense and running some aspects of triple option. It's very similar to the old playbook that Jefferson ran when Coach Bloom was the head football coach and the last time Jefferson made it to the playoffs. So trying to go back to what was an identity the last time every time Jefferson's been a successful football program, it's been with the kind of a hard-nosed edge with running football. And we're trying to get back to that. So it'll be a new look, and for maybe some of the alumni, they'll be able to sit in the stands and, call out what the plays were actually labeled, because we're labeling the exact same way the alumni were running them back 20 years ago.
You're going to be, I understand, very young this year. Is it a little harder teaching that, or is it a little easier? Because none of those young kids have that preconceived idea what they want to do this year.
It's actually been really easy to teach them. They've really kind of taken on and wanted to learn it. They've seen it happen on TV, and we showed them some films of other teams in the area that do it. Stone Valley runs it pretty well down there. I think Coach Lawler knows his stuff, and we went down as a staff and visited with Coach Lawler's staff, and kind of got some of the early on pointers. I've been trying to send him some practice film when I can to see if he can kind of help us speed along the process of not making the early on mistakes some people make, and by just get out there and communicate to them. But that's kind of some of the things we've tried to do to expedite the process. But they've been really young and they've wanted to learn, which has been nice.
When you look around the Nick 10, there's a lot of great offenses out there. How about on the defensive side of the ball? How are things coming along there?
On the defensive side of the ball, main thing we've been working on this year, I went out and with replacing some staff members, I tried to find guys that could teach tackling. Sometimes you got to admit that you're not the best at things, and being a former offensive lineman, tackling's not something I ever did at a very high level. I mean, it was always an okay tackler in my playing days, but there are people that are out there that are better at you, and I tried to surround myself with somebody that was better at teaching tackling technique than me. So I've seen a marked increase in our tackling performance with the addition of Coach Ware coming on board.
Special teams is always a big deal, and there was games won and lost in the Nick 10 last year because of special teams. How do they look this year for the Jayhawks?
We were very fortunate. We had a young man that came, just happened to run across him in the school building, and he's going to come out and kick for us this year, and I think he could potentially be a difference maker. It kind of goes back to the guy that we had a couple of years ago. Who was a soccer guy that came up, kicked for us. Same kind of situation here. He's got dynamite in the leg, and he's just been kicking a football natural. So I'm awful excited to have Alejandro on board and going out and doing that because I think he's really going to help us in the special teams game.
Obviously, with what happened last year, there's a lot of unknown for Jefferson football coming into this year. Who are some of the players that you're looking to kind of step up and get into some leadership roles this year?
Well, like I said, it's going to be a really young group. I think some of the seniors got to step up and be seniors and understand this is their swan song. But we're going to need to have it's going to be really important for us to have our quarterback Kamani Williams, who's going to be a junior. He's got to really step into a leadership role, and the big thing he's got to do is he's just got to be remarkably consistent and make good decisions with the football. And that's not always the easiest thing for a junior to do. But he's come a long way in his maturity over the last couple of years, and I think he's ready to do that, to be responsible with the football and put us in good situations, and just go out there and do his job, execute his job. I think he's very important to what we do. We're going to split roles with our fullback position with a senior Raymond Lyman and Nick Richmond. Anybody who knows wishbone football knows that that fullback position is extremely important. So we'll be leaning fairly heavy on those guys to be bigger physical ball carriers and go out there and kind of grind out those ugly yards. And then our wing backs will also be important to try and get a little bit bigger plays and be athletic, and those guys will also be juniors. So our backfield will pretty much all be juniors. So the guys I expect to play a lot really early on. So those young guys will step up and protect the football, make good decisions, and run hard will be key for us to develop it this year.
And defensively, we'd be having to go two platoon a lot because of, will you be able to have to go both ways instead of two platoon because the numbers are a little bit lower this year, Coach?
Well, like I said, our numbers are as good now as they've ever been, and we've actually, I think we've got what I would consider maybe more depth than we've ever had as far as guys that can go out and play and are more battle ready. So we're trying to avoid having any. We're going to have some guys that are going to have to play both ways. We're trying to avoid having that as much as possible. So there's some cases where two guys are awful close on the defensive side, and we're going to give the nod to the guy that's not starting on the offensive side. And if we need to, we could still spell him with the other guy. But we're going to try and create a situation where we're starting as few guys as possible both ways.
I've talked to a lot of different coaches about, how they kind of approach that situation. Do you find it's better to maybe take one player and just try to get him to concentrate and really try to master one position, or sometimes is somebody just so talented that you say, we just got to have him on the field no matter what?
I think both cases happen. I think you got certain situations where there's just a guy that's so talented where you're just like, I don't know how we can afford to have him off the field at any point in time, and you even feel nervous when you take him off the field to say, you're not going to be on kickoff return or punt team or whatever. There's guys out there that exist that are kind of like that. And then there's other guys that, I think asking them to say, all right, we're going to focus on this. I still want you to learn the offensive side. I still want to do that, but, we're going to put certain things in place to kind of support you on the offensive side in case you need to be in. Where we can, give you some wristbands, or we can give you, put you next to somebody that really knows their stuff or whatever it is, and kind of give them their supports there. And then, let them kind of, focus on the one thing. I think that guy also exists. So I think it's kind of trying to find out what kind of guy you're dealing with and, what they're capable of learning, and then going from there.
It's preseason. Excitement is high. I'm sure the team goals are right there with any other team in the conference. You want to get out there and win that first week. Forget wins and losses for a second. What's going to be a successful bounce-back season for Jefferson this year?
Well, I think that wins and losses do play a role into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, we want to try and go out and win football games. I think just setting the bar so low where we're just going to go out and say, man, I hope we can get through this. I think that's kind of shortchanging the kids. And we've talked about, trying to build that the program only has the one goal of trying to get to the playoffs. That's the one goal for the program, and that's one that's going to carry over year to year until it happens. We've been out of the playoffs way too long, and we need to get back there. So I don't think we can just sit back and simply say, well, I hope we can get through this year, because we've got guys that this is going to be their last hurrah in football, and if just getting through something was their goal, I think that set the bar pretty low for those guys.
Before I let you go, you jump right into it the first week of the season. You take on the Rockford City Challenge champions, the Guilford Vikings, who had a great season last year. Last year, of course, you had the nightmare with the thunderstorms and all that stuff, but what a way to start your season out against the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get any quarter or anything like that coming off of last season, and all those types of things. We jump right into it with a pretty darn good football team in Guilford. Obviously they're very, very good and very experienced on the offensive side of the ball coming back, and that entire defense, I think, graduates from last year, which is nice to know that, but I'm sure that they've got some young guys that are coming and ready, waiting in the wings to get their opportunity now. So, we've got to prepare for them like they're ready to go. And I'm sure Coach Gilfone's got them going. He's been doing this thing awful long.
Well, thanks so much, Coach, for taking time. I know it was a little foggy out there today, and hopefully we'll have a nice Friday night next week, and we appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, no more lightning strikes on those Friday nights. We need to get this thing in on Friday night.
I'll put my word in for you, okay, Coach?
All right, thank you much.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking to Jefferson Jayhawks football coach Patrick Babcock. I love the attitude.
Yeah, I love it. A lot of coaches probably would in that situation just say, you know what, we want to come in and just try to compete and get through some games and things like that. And no, they're coming out to win. They want to play football. They want to win. They want to get to the playoffs, things like that. They're not going to come out there just happy to compete.
And I always said good leaders make tough decisions. Okay. They made some tough decisions. So.
They certainly did, but I think in the long run it'll be good for the program. It shows that that they've got some control over that program in the long run, and they're going to get the kids out there that they want out there.
We're going to take a timeout. Be back with more of